Okay, you've gotten an interview. Now what? The most important thing for the interview is to come in prepared. Okay, so know everything you can about the organization, know everything about the industry and what their competitors are doing. If you can, if you find out who you're going to be interviewing with, look at their LinkedIn profiles and figure out as much as you can about them. Look at your own resume. What are the things that you want to make sure you highlight? What are your weaknesses that they're going to uncover and how can you respond to that? Someone's always going to ask you, what's your greatest weakness? What's your greatest strength? Be ready for that. If you don't have all the skills that are necessary in a position and you know that, figure out what is your response to that question and how it's going to be. If someone's looking for 5 years experience and you only have 3, talk about other experience that makes up for that. Come in thinking with what are those questions that they're going to be asking me and what are my responses. The more prepared you are, the better. There's nothing worse than when you ask, when I ask a question to a potential interview and they're off looking at it and they give me a bad answer, God, they haven't really thought this through. Also, I want to talk about some of the myths about interviews. Most often, you're going to be sitting there and the people are prepared, but about 50% of the time, they may have been just coming from a meeting and they haven't looked at your resume, or maybe you're one of like 4 candidates and you're third out of 4 and they can't remember who's what. A lot of times people are going to come unprepared to a meeting. So by you being prepared and having thought through this stuff, you're going to be able to tell them stuff that maybe they don't have thought about. And maybe the questions aren't coming to you that you want. So if that happens, you have to know what are the things you absolutely want to leave the interview with for the person on the other end or person. So you want to make sure that by being over prepared, if they come in and they're underprepared and they don't ask you some really obvious questions or things that really expose the best part of who you are and your skill set, you have to volunteer that by answering it in some other way. And these are just some cheat sheets that I just want to highlight and have you read through. Before the interview, there's a couple of key things you want to do. Always show up early, but don't show up too early. Make sure you know where you're going so that you don't come in and you're stressed out. During the interview, relax, enter the room confident with a smile. I can't tell you how off-putting it is when someone walks through the door and they kind of are, looking like this, or maybe they're looking really serious and tense. You're like, well, is that how I want my people to come through to a client? You want them to come through in a relaxed manner. Breathe, figure out whatever it is that's going to put you at ease. These are some top questions that you should be prepared with. But again, look at every single time that you're having an informational interview or a formal interview, what is the job description, and figure out what are the questions they're likely to ask about the job, but also what are they going to ask about you in relation to this job? What are your gaps? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Be ready for that. The other thing to mention, and I was talking about this with, it's in terms of networking, but if you ever do an informational interview, realize you're doing an interview. I can tell you again, 4 out of 5 of the jobs are never posted. How is that? Because most times people already have an idea of someone within their company or within their network that they're going to reach out to. So I can tell you when a lot of people come to me and we do an informational interview, we start talking, and if they have a good head on their shoulders, I start thinking, could I use this person? The same is true with you. There's no such thing as an informational interview. So prepare for one just like you would any interview, okay? You don't want to leave them feeling, well, maybe that person could be good. You want them to think, gosh, that person's really good. I don't have a position, but I know company X does. I'm going to refer them to that. And lastly, social media. This is an important aspect, especially if you're younger or you're trying to advance your career, or maybe you don't have the expertise that someone else has. How can you make yourself stand out? Social media is an amazing way to do that. If you are blogging, if you're tweeting, if you're building your online profile, they're going to find that and they're going to start saying, oh, well, they don't have this experience, but look at all these articles they've written. Look how on top of the industry and the sector they are. That's the kind of person we want to have in this company, someone who's really on top of these things. Moreover, like I mentioned earlier, if you have some negative things that are out there, you need to make sure you take those down, because there's just a different generational thing that's out there. For millennials and people who are just coming out of undergrad, you're totally free with having, embarrassing photos out there. But I can tell you, I've been with multiple clients where their sustainability manager, director has hired someone as an intern or whatever, and then they've uncovered something through social media on a Facebook page or a tweet or something that's inappropriate. And then all of a sudden they go, oh God, I have to have a conversation with this person. You don't want to have that happen. So realize that you want to take down all that stuff as you start your job search process, but also realize you have an amazing opportunity with using social media to enhance your brand as to who you are. So if you are blogging and you're constantly twittering about and sending out tweets about specific aspects about a company or an industry or what's going on, not only are you going to learn, but people are going to see it. If you have a bunch of followers, that's going to say something. So use social media to your benefit.